All right, all right, all right. I think I got the computer going. Let me get everything set up on my end so I can communicate. I can be communicative. Matt,
Let me get everything.
pause that. See where I'm going. And it looks like I am ready to rock and roll. So let me get started by saying, what's up, YouTube? Happy Sunday. Today is January the 14th. And we are halfway through. We're well past halfway through the winter, at least my winter is concerned. That means that in 14 days to the day on January 28th, 2 more weeks, I will begin my fertilizer and weed control season. And man, I am excited. What is up, Turf Nerd? Mr. Sullivan, happy Sunday to you, sir. On January the 28th, tentatively, you know, who knows what the weather has in store. We've had a real winter this year, so tentatively, if we look like we're above freezing, I've got soil temperatures above freezing, then I will begin going out with my round one. For those of you curious what my round one is going to be, I am going out with ammonium sulfate. It's actually going to be an 1800 impregned with a 0.38 rate of prodiamine. This is the first time in my life I used granular pre-emergent, and I'm weirded out about it. It's just one of those things where, you know, you're relying on prill distribution to ensure coverage, and it just freaks me out. And so anyway, just to simplify things, this year I'm going to be using round one will be a granular pre-emergent, and man, I don't like it. But what that frees me up to do is in my tank, I can spot spray herbicide. So, you know, that's I look forward to that. Casey Turner, speaking of first app, why are they basically saying by February 15th we should have round one done? Casey, who is saying that? That's not really the case. Maybe if you're in Florida, possibly, but I don't know. I don't know who's saying that we need to be done by February 15th. I would go on a limb to say most people are starting on February 15th. Jason Clark, yeah, it is strange, but that's what I'm going to be doing. That may change for round two. That 0.38 rate of barricade at 4 or 5 pounds per thousand is going to be a full rate of barricade. So that's going to be the other thing. I'm going, instead of doing split apps like I've normally done, I'm only going out with a single app of prodiamine. But on new sales that come up, I'm also going to be doing the same thing. So there's no real but about it. But the but I was actually going to get to was what this is going to free me up to be able to do with round two. With round two, I can throw more things in the tank, or I can get a little fancier with my fertilizer and back that pre-emergent cost off a little bit. So not only in terms of simplicity, also this is going to be also to for budgetary concerns. You know, that round one application would be, you know, mostly for budget, and then round two, you know, I can make changes as I see fit. There's going to be some properties, my larger commercial properties, I'm going to go ahead and do liquid prodiamine, and so that's it. That's how it's going to go. Mr. Martinez, no problem. No problem. Yeah, most people think I'm crazy for spraying prodiamine at the quart per 1,000 rate. But I've done it for such a long time that with it. I remember thinking, I was like, man, there's no way. I was actually doing it in Memphis, and I was doing it on a round to be for POA control. And I sprayed it all fall that year, and it did awesome. I mean, it really, really did awesome. So I was super, super happy with it. My backyard is overrun with mics. Can take 2 steps without stepping on a hill. I want to get rid of them before reseeding. Any suggestions? Moles, not mics. Jeremy, guess is as good as anybody else's. There are products on the market, Talprid being probably the most popular that the pros go to control moles. But make sure your grub populations are in check. But really, just the nature of moles in general. They're going to feed on many subsurface insects. So that could be earthworms, that could be grub worms, that could be crickets or beetles that are burrowing, could be pill bugs. They're going to go after a lot of different things. So your best bet is just to take a multifaceted approach, try and trap some, try and poison some. Keep in mind, if you're using Talprid, and it is harmful to mammals in the sense that, like, it will take out a mole. Also know that it would be extremely toxic to pets. So if you have pets, be very, very, very careful using a product like that. CD Andrews, you like that boot disc failure? I'm going to start calling you my tech guy. It turns out, I don't know what it is. This computer I have, the hard drive likes to come disconnected, so I had to turn a few screwdrivers real quick and push the hard drive back in, and I was ready to go. So anyway, I can't wait to build my complete YouTube only station. I'm going to start that at some point in February and get that done. And I will not have this issue anymore. So bam, bam. Philip, no, I'm thinking this will be my only preem of the year. I'm just going to go out and run a full rate. When I say full rate, I'm going to get down about 1.3 pounds of AI in a single app, and that will be it. I want to say max rate prodiamine for a year is 2.25 pounds. However, if I run 2.25 pounds, I run the risk of having it last into aeration overseed season, and I do not want that to happen. So I've always had good success with the 1.3. Actually, I used to run just a 1 pound rate. And then I bumped that up to help stove off a little bit of that late season spurge that comes in. And I mean, really, I can't see enough of a difference to justify running really a higher rate. I've run some extreme rates of prodiamine before, way off label rates, and I've never been that super happy with it. Josh Whitaker, that's not a squirrel. It's not a squirrel. That's rabbit. That's rabid rabbit. Josh Whitaker, how'd you survive your snowplow adventure there? For those of you that don't know Josh Whitaker, he owns the company Performance Lawns in Nashville, Tennessee, and great guy, great turf manager, and a great friend of mine. And so that's why I like to get. That's why I tolerate him being so hard on these squirrels that exist on my face. He got a bunch of snow, and apparently he got to do some plowing, and I have an attachment to his snow plow because I may or may not had to have helped him get it from Knoxville to Nashville one time. It may have happened. I don't know. I don't know. What's up, Ray? Good to see you, Green Duck. Yeah, it's definitely not the best for broadleaves. Gallery would be. And spurge is really the only, late summer broadleaf weed I typically have to deal with. And so usually if I can get it to push a little further through the summer, then I'm good to go without having to use any gallery. Although one of the weeds that's becoming a bigger issue in my area now, I had to deal with it when I was further south, but I haven't had to deal with it in Knoxville. But now I'm having to deal with chamber bitter. For those of you that are not familiar with chamber bitter, it looks like a miniature mimosa tree growing in the yard. And that is one I'm having to use gallery to prevent because, definitely prodiamine would have zero effect on your chamber bitter. What is your suggestion to spray a liquid fert after the spring green up? Want to put down an extra pre-app to combat doveweed in late summer, and was thinking about mixing in urea, but don't want to burn. You can use urea, but just dial your rate back. The other option would be to use like a methylene urea. Methylene urea is going to have less burn potential, has lower salt index than just a straight urea. So you're not going to get a stark green effect out of it alone. But, typically the way they have those mixed is like 75% methylene urea, 25% just regular urea. And it comes in like a 30-0-0. Or maybe even like a 33-0-0, maybe the highest. I can't remember. But a methylene urea mix and put it down at like a ½ pound or maybe even a quarter pound, then you should be good as far as an end source. And as far as a pre-emergent to combat doveweed, that's a tough one. Ray, what do you use to prevent doveweed? Would that be something like I don't know. Yeah, that's another one too. A UAN, a true denitrification inhibitor would be a good choice. This is funny. This is funny. People talking about the squirrel on my face, and then they send me a picture of this big giant squirrel on their face. That is funny. How about them apples? I'll cover your face, but I'll show your beard. How about that? How about that? Spectacle. Good choice. Good choice. Spectacle. I forget Spectacle exists. That's the one thing I miss about being in a warm season market is getting to use Spectacle. Golly, I wish I would have gotten to use it. It's a good product. It's a good product. Everybody I talk to that's using Spectacle will not go with any other pre-emergent. And it's just one of those things where, keep using it until it no longer works, I guess, because there's just not enough variety in modes of actions for pre-emergence available to us right now. And that's a tough place to be in, especially when it comes to herbicide resistance. Any suggestions on killing chamber bitter and warm season turf? The Atlanta area has been getting worse and worse with it the last couple of years. Yeah, Celsius and Dismiss, that would definitely work on it. I always used the Momentum FX2 from Site 1. It is a 2,4-D triclopyr and fluroxypyr. It will definitely ding Bermuda grass, so just know that going into it. Talk to your customers, explain that there's definitely going to be some turf injury, but if you can do it in conjunction with a spoon feed, then the damage won't be too severe. So definitely something that has a higher rate of either dicamba, fluroxypyr, will be more effective on chamber bitter or triclopyr for that matter. Anything that's going to have more activity on woody tissue, because chamber bitter is extremely woody in nature. Momentum it is really hard on Bermuda grass, but it's extremely effective and relatively cheap. Although with I have not priced Celsius in a long time. I know before, we were getting it for like $80, something like that. So, it's there's no telling where it is, price range. Ryan 611, where are you located, sir? There's a lot of people in Florida right now that are building out NPRs. The only company I personally have experience with is GNC. This is interesting. I'm getting odd messages on Facebook. The GNC in Pocahontas, Arkansas will build out spray trucks for you. And they do an awesome job. When I was at Fairway, and all of our trucks were built down there in Pocahontas. And I mean, they just really did it up. And we're extremely flexible as far as the different drop tanks and stuff we could add to it. My last truck I had in Augusta had a 3-reel, 3-motor setup on 3 different tanks. And I mean, it was just an absolute beast. A 600 to 200 gallon split tanks, each with their own separate pump. And then I had a 100-gallon drop tank with its own pump. And that's right there. It's pretty good stuff. Still $80 for the 10 ounces. I use it at the 3-ounce rate, cost effective on weeds, and it works. Celsius is supposed to be agency price. Other prices are from non-authorized sellers. Yep, it is supposed to be agency price. So you may be able to get a kickback on that at the end of the year from Bayer. Big bro, what's up, Corporate HQ? I hope you're as well prepping for Nutsedge, but Pen and Magnum is pricey. Any sub for this? Thanks as always. Corporate HQ, I'll tell you what I did this year. I have a Real Fleet Solutions in Florida that Josh is talking about there. Okay, so Corporate HQ, I build your own spray truck. That's right, it is. It is much cheaper to do it that way. I don't know, Pete, you'll never believe this. The quotes I'm seeing these guys getting out of Florida are unbelievably affordable. It's amazing what the quotes they're getting. So on a super nutsedge prone yard, in fact, it was more prone with Kalinga than anything. I started my first application of Dismiss at 4 ounces to the acre on April 15th. On May 15th, I sprayed 4 ounces to the acre of Dismiss. On June 15th, maybe even June 30th, I sprayed a final 4 ounces per acre of Dismiss, and I did not have an issue with nutsedge at all in that yard. It was great. So in terms of a preventative, it never did make it to the surface. If I caught it in April 15th, there were some properties I was seeing nutsedge on around that April 15th timeframe. But I mean, I really jumped the gun on this yard. There was nothing obvious, no Kalinga obvious, and those 3 applications were awesome. I never did see it come up, and regular application. So, timing wise, it wasn't like I had to be on it. And in terms of a preventative, that seemed to do really well for me. So I like that. I like that a lot. What did you say up here, Andy Burleson? Let me scroll up for just a hair here. What prodiamine granular are you using? Price, still looking for something affordable here. Andy, I am using a local company here is blending it for me. For the first round, it's just an 1800, and it is $18 a bag, something like that, $16 a bag. So anyway, I'm going to go up with 3/4 of a pound first app, and then hopefully by second app, my own fertilizer will be ready and I can begin using that. But we'll just kind of see how that goes. But we'll see. We'll see. Matt, going to have 4 to 5 day winter thaw up here in Connecticut this week. Should I head out and pick up some leaves and take some added areas, or continue to stay off of it? Absolutely, man. If you're going to have a thaw up there in Connecticut, definitely get them up, man. Get them up, mow them up, however you want to do it. But you just go after it. You just go after it. Peg Junk, what would be a great hand tank mix for a DIYer with a 750 square foot fescue lawn, or should I go granular? Peg Junk, with a property that small, it may behoove you to go ahead and go granular. You can run liquid. To be honest, it's just a lot of math. I could tell you what it is. You know, if you wanted to do like a single rate of prodiamine on a fescue yard, so let's see, 26 divided by 43.5 times 0.75. So, you know, you're talking about 0.4 ounces of prodiamine, so a little less than half of an ounce. That's difficult to measure, and it would be like 0.75 ounces of 3-way, not even, you know, just barely that. So, man, if I were you, I'd just use granular and be done with it. I mean, those are super small increments to measure, and when you're talking about measuring at that small of an increment, you know, it just a little bit like a nightmare, really. Andy, I'm using ammonium sulfate, and I'm using ammonium sulfate because it's still going to be pretty cold. However, I'm hoping with the warm days that I will stimulate some good wake-up activity and go ahead and begin pushing out all this freezed, damaged turf that I'm seeing. Because, you know, like after this week going into next week, we're going to have some days in the 50s, another day in the 60s. So, you know, I'm right on the cusp of being there. So, with those days in the, you know, upper 50s, low 60s, you know, hopefully we'll get some good nitrogen uptake at that time, and you know, begin to push out some of this freeze damage, because just driving around and looking at everything, you know, my lawns are holding up okay, but I mean, just all in all, there's just a ton of freeze damage out there. You know, it's in this is the end of my 3rd year in Knoxville, so the beginning, you know, next year will be my 4th year in Knoxville, and this is the 2nd coldest winter we've had in these last 4 years. And over like the last 10 years, those 2 winters are the 2 coldest winters in like 10 years. So, you know, fairly hard on the turf. It's been pretty hard with, pretty hard on the trees as well. Trees are beginning to fall like crazy. Is it too early for aeration this weekend? It will be around 50 for warm season. Telly Coleman, yeah, I would. If you're in Florida, have at it, man. But outside of there, I mean, I would just go ahead and wait till it's actually, you know, really starting to grow. You know, once you're 100% green and you know you've got some good vigorous growth going, and the reason being is that's going to speed up your recovery. So that way you're not just waiting around with just tons of holes in the yard opened up. Not to say that it's necessarily just a super detrimental thing that's going to take place on a residential lawn. Like my backyard, my Bermuda backyard, I aerated it around, I don't know, the 1st of October or something. Maybe the end of and so you know, I mean, my Bermuda's fine. My Bermuda's just fine. What's up, Jake the Long Kid? Yeah, Telly Coleman, man, I would definitely hold off, man. I wouldn't aerate your warm season until like May or June. I think that's going to be your best bet. My vendors have something called Fusin, ammonium sulfate condensed with ammonium nitrate, good for cool weather. Man, I would really like to try that, Ray. I'm going to have to call around and see if I can find something similar. One thing that I have been seeing that looks really interesting is this Yara Ametis product, the Ametis fertilizer, which is it's a hardened urea prill, and it's hardened with ammonium sulfate. I really like that, and it's got a 40-00 analysis. So super interested in that product, but from what I understand, they have very limited supply of it. Our fescue here really turns yellow here, where I can keep rye somewhat green. Anybody here try Katana by PBI Gordon? Usually go with Certainty or Monument for nuts. There's one, and Katana has worked for others. Katana is going to be great for sedge control. It's also going to work well for ryegrass transition. Is most people I know that use it for. Yeah. But when it comes for sedges, I always prefer Monument. I don't know why. It could be a mental thing for me. But Katana is some of the best, but hard to use in residential spot spray only. There you go. I haven't used a ton of Katana. Monument has always been my go-to, and the reason being is that I always feel like I have a better, quote unquote, pre-emergent effect on the sedge with Monument more so than I have any other product I've ever used. Like my ball fields, when I blanket all those with Monument, that's usually the last of the weeds I have to spray on that field until fall. And sometimes not. I mean, my herbicide cost rate on my ball fields is so extremely low because, I get to use Ronstar on it, and then I get to follow that up with an application of Monument. And then after that, I really don't have to spray anything else. And so that is great. I love that. I love that. You could also blend AMS with potassium nitrate. Yeah, you could. You can blend ammonium sulfate and potassium nitrate. Let's see here. Monument is really good on broadleaf and grass as well. It damages down grass and something called blue stem. Yeah, which is interesting, right? Little blue stem, for that matter, is actually a really big thing here in Tennessee. Probably more so in West Tennessee and North Mississippi than East Tennessee, but I still see it here, and it's an absolute pain. And I never had great luck with Monument on little blue stem, but it will completely suspend its growth. And so, usually what I like to do is some very significant aeration, a good heavy rate, a Monument, and a good fertilizer to help that Bermuda grass, outcompete and hopefully get a little damage to that blue stem as a result of the aeration. What are your thoughts on the Air 8 product from Greene County? Philip, it's a interesting product in the sense that it's a humate product. However, there is a higher percentage of potassium hydroxide in that product. And it's not, if you talk to John Perry about it, he'll tell you that it's not a replacement of a mechanical aeration. That's just, you don't apply Air 8 and overseed at the same time and expect to get, significant seed to soil contact. More so it's about stimulating, oxygen at the root zone, airflow at the root zone, in a swarm of microbial activity being attracted to it. So, I don't know just a ton about it. I've just kind of done some backwards engineering on the label. And that's kind of my thought on it. I'm not super familiar with potassium hydroxide on turf because there's just not a lot of good in it. But you know, he has it at a percentage where the pH is still able to be applied safely, because potassium hydroxide in and of itself has a pH of like 14. So anyway, it's an interesting product, very interesting product. I haven't used it, so I can't give you a whole lot of just exactly what I think about it. Any dominating going on with your Bermuda? Not right now, Dick, man. My Bermuda is asleep as it gets. It is nighty night time. Beautiful golden brown dormant and closed for business for the time being. Blue stem is a pain in the warmer areas. I use Revolver and Image, then Revolver and Celsius on it as well. Yeah, Revolver and Celsius I toyed with a little bit on it, kind of in that same realm as with Dallas grass, because, you know, in my opinion, if it works on Dallas grass, it's going to work on everything. So it's that's a good one, you know. Well, if nothing else will get it, let's try Revolver and Celsius. Yeah, potassium hydroxide is extremely alkaline, super high pH, and the interesting thing is the pH of that Air 8 is like an 8 or a 9, I believe. So it's been dropped pretty significantly. Also, the Leonardite in the brewing process of it is going to be relatively low pH. So it's an interesting combination there. And when I say like it's not like a 50% potassium hydroxide solution, it's just a and it's relatively low. It's relatively low. But I know it has a higher concentration of potassium hydroxide in the Air 8 than it does like the RGS product. Low mowing helps blue stem as well. No blue stem and low mowed at less than 3/4 of an inch. No, because the crown of the plant almost sits 3/4 of an inch above the grass surface as well. So I could see where we just absolutely chew that up. So it's another thing. If you've got little blue stem in a yard, low mow it, real mow it, and get rid of it. I guess kind of an update on the fertilizer project. It's still moving forward. That's it for my update. I'm going to have about 1,000 pounds the end of this week, maybe 2,000 pounds the end of this week. And then to go through the bagging process. Well, first we have to send it off to be analyzed. We've got 3 different mixes coming back, and we have to have those sent off to be analyzed and labeled. And then, so probably this time next week, I will be talking to you about potentially setting up a list of who wants some of it. And you know, we will go from there. That's it on the new fertilizer. I'll leave it at that. Look at that, David Turf Nerd Watkins. He's out there aerating his yards all fall long. Look at that. Look at that. Did 1 million square feet of turf with it. That's the man you need to talk to about the aerate. I can dive a little deeper into the science of it. The other thing too is I'm still trying to get you know, mine and John Perry's schedules on the same page so we can do one of these together. I know he's had a ton going on, and I kind of have too. So we have yet to be able to make the schedules coincide. But for those of you that got to go to the Real Green Conference down in St. Pete last week, I hope you all took a minute to say hey to John Perry. I believe he would have stuck out like a sore thumb, being the 6'7" guy he is out there. I'll take 150 to 200 pounds. Yeah, I will. Like I said, I'll put a I'll put together some sort of list next week. Like I said, I want to send this off for analysis first and see exactly where it stands, because you know, we know what the material was going into the machine that produced the prill. The problem is that we don't know what escaped as gas during the production process, and so what exactly is what it's gonna look like on the back end. The interesting thing is that with the machine, when we had to use the liquid to actually form the prill, we used RGS, and it worked beautifully. So that was a pretty neat gig there. 3-foot hose need high pressure that I then regulate down with the handpiece. For those of you that don't know, Ray has one of the most incredible spray systems I've ever seen. He uses a spray boom. Well, at least for his gas-powered backpack, he uses a spray boom, like a walking boom. And he uses, do you use a watt regulator, Ray? I can't remember. But he's got a regulator just before the trigger on the boom, or maybe just after the trigger on the boom. I think it's before the trigger to help kind of act as a counterweight. And that's how he regulates his pressure. And talk about being so much more consistent, of having a regulator at your wand or your gun or your boom, versus relying on that regulator coming off the pump. So what that allows you to do is maximize the pressure all the way through the length of your hose, and then dial it back right as it gets to your spray system. So Ray has a really unique spray system, and it is probably the most consistent spray system I've ever seen. And the reason why I say that is for those of you that have ever used 300 or 400 foot hose, you know, like how if you don't wind it up the right way, when you go to crank it the next time, you have to adjust your pressure to get the same amount of output. Or you know, if you've got 88% of the real unrolled, it sprays different than if you only have you know, like 20 or 30 feet pulled off the truck. So way he does it there is, you know, go ahead, send all that pressure down the hose and then regulate it at the end. So that's really smart. Really smart. What's up, man? How are you? Man, I'm good here. I'm good here. We got another week of another few days of cold. And then once we get through the cold, it looks like it's about to start warming up. That's how I can use things like MSM, Pylex, and Tenacity without causing damage. There you go. Ray, what do you primarily use Pylex for in your neck of the woods? I'm curious. MSM, for those of you, I'm sure most everybody has heard me say this before. But MSM is methylfuron methyl. It's also known as manner. There's a lot of different things out there, and when you see it on the shelf at the herbicide store, it's going to look extremely appealing because of its price. It's extremely cheap. Pylex on goosegrass, good call. What rate are you running? I've been playing with it at sub 1 ounce rates, and been super happy with that. MSMA, is the methylfuron methyl, is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. At a half ounce rate, you're killing weeds. At a 1 ounce rate, you're potentially killing trees, and at a 2 ounce rate, you're potentially sterilizing soil. Those are rates per acre. 2 ounces. We're talking about barely a handful of material. I mean, that barely even covering the palm of your hand. I mean, just a tiny amount of material, and you're talking about potentially sterilizing soil. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for those of you that choose to go the route of MSM. Be extremely careful. It's serious stuff. Yep, it will kill trees and create bare ground. That's what locally. That's what they use to clear is MSM. I know they have the same mode of action, but what do you like better, triclopyr or Merco in your 3 or 4 way? Thomas, what is Merco? Are you talking about like a mecha prop or something, or MCPA? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can you tell me more about dicamba and the pros or possible cons of using it in conjunction with 2,4-D? Yeah, that's just it. If you're using a pre-blended mecha prop, if I'm dealing with fescue, I like triclopyr. You know, most 3 ways are going to contain, you know, mecha prop in it. Most of them are not going to contain triclopyr, so that's why I like to add the triclopyr to it. It just broadens that spectrum of control, and broadens the temperature range of control as well, especially with triclopyr being the ester. Dicamba can't. Yeah, dicamba by itself, Vanquish, I believe, is the dicamba deal that's available to turf professionals. Extremely powerful stuff. So keep that in mind. Your best bet that if you want to use dicamba in conjunction with 2,4-D is just use a 3-way product, and at that 1.5 ounce rate, that will keep you, you know, at a 4 ounce per acre rate of dicamba or less. Because I believe they only have 6% active in it, something like that, in a traditional 3-way. So that will actually probably have you at less than 4 ounces per acre. So that's why I would stick to something that's already pre-mixed. And 3-way is so cheap that it doesn't really make any sense to go buy, you know, bulk 2,4-D and dicamba and mix your own with it, because, you know, when you're talking about, you know, spending $60, $58 for a 2.5 gallon container of 3-way, I mean, it's hard to beat that price. You may be able to get it down to 52, but you know, with the risk to reward return there is just not viable in my opinion. So I will leave it at that. Let's see here. Strike 3. What about strike 3, Breeze Lawn? Dicamba, but careful calibration or else trees die. Yep, that's right. What's up, Frank? I am good. I am good. I bet you can't wait to get out in the yard. Yeah, y'all have to deal with real snow in Michigan. Luckily, we don't. I feel for you, brother. I want nothing to do with it. As for the birds, it is a you ought to see what the snow does down south here. It completely shuts the entire city and community down. I mean, it goes into full-fledged pandemonium here whenever snow is on the horizon. They can forecast snow and the community goes bananas. So yeah, I'll save all that for you guys up there in Ohio and Minnesota and all those fun places. That's where all the snow belongs, up near the Great Lakes. Y'all take it, have it. All right, y'all, we are running into 8 o'clock. I hear my children yelling in the background. They know it's time for bed, and I probably need to give them a bath as well. So I thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in. I always appreciate it, and got more whiteboards up. I've got plenty of them actually recorded. I just got to get them edited and then posted. 2 more weeks of landscape work that I've got to get done, and then I will be back on my YouTube grind. As always, when I'm out in the field, I always have more content to be able to produce. So anyway, super excited about that. I got a couple more questions here real quick. Let's say an HOA with 8-foot street strips of lawns with trees every 25 to 30 feet. Do you think prodiamine or dimension would cause any harm to the trees? Probably not, Andy. At at a turf label rate, especially if you're not running max rate of prodiamine. I would not be concerned with those trees. Heavy handpiece equals sore arm. That's right. That's right. Miss my window in the fall to knock out POA. What should my plan be in the spring? Just pre-emergent. Thomas, what turf type are you dealing with? Is three-way safe on Bermuda and St. Augustine, and at what rate per thousand? Yeah, Breeze, it is. Just be careful, especially during transition. You can do a little bit of harm on St. Augustine. You definitely want to drop that. I would say probably max rate on St. Augustine would be like 1 ounce per thousand. So you should be good to go there. Good to see you too, Frank. We'd love for you to do a training series for new applicators. Yeah, David, I need to do that because I've got more new applicators coming to work for me this year, and that would be extremely effective. David, if you want to put together kind of a list of topics you want me to cover in a training series, then I can record that. Shoot that to me in an email or a text if you don't mind. Thomas Strong in fescue and rye plan for POA. I don't know. Probably just pre-emergent. If you want to play with a product like Progress at the fumicate, I think is the active ingredient. POA constrictor is another name. By all means, have at it. You may want to tank mix it in conjunction with tenacity, or you may just want to run like tenacity and dismiss and discolor it and feel okay about it. But know that it will come back. So not a lot of good post-emergent activity in ryegrass options for POA control. I am going full Amish with this beard. Actually, I'm going to trim it tonight, so I'll say goodbye to it. But I'll rock this squirrel on my face one more night. Proudly rock the squirrel. All right, y'all, that's it. I got to get the kids to bed. I appreciate y'all all watching. Have a very, 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 very good night. Have a great week. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay safe out there. And as always, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.